Today we're replacing the fuel injectors in this 2000 Chrysler 300M. So in order to get to the injectors, we need to remove the upper intake manifold. So first thing to do with that is we got to take off this airbox assembly. So we're going to take off this vacuum line right here first, and then you actually don't need to remove the cowl. You can reach underneath right here with the socket. This is a 1/4 inch socket, and just remove, loosen up the screw tightening around the throttle body. I'll show you a closer up in a second. And this is just a close-up, so we just loosened that guy right there, and we should just be able to push it off. And now, if we go to this side, you can actually see if I can do this with one hand. Take all this out, and then take it out like that. There we go. All right, so on the intake, we have a bracket here, and then there's a bracket over here on this side, and then there's a bracket in the middle. So you don't have to take both bolts off. You just need to take off the one bolt on the bottom of each one. So there's one here. This is a 13mm. The one on this side. And then we have this one in the middle. Like I said, you don't need to take the top bolts off because they're attached to the intake, and when you take the intake off, they're just going to come along with it, so there's no use doing extra work when it's not needed. Next to that third bracket, we have this electrical connector right here that we're going to take off. Now on each side of the intake we have these 13mm bolts holding it on. So we're just going to go to each side and take these off. So also on this side we have vacuum line here. We have the intake air temperature sensor right there, and we have a vacuum line here. I believe this is the brake booster. So this one, wiggle and pull technique. There we go. Alright, so now we're getting to the more difficult parts. So because we didn't remove the cowl, the space is limited, but it really saves time not removing the cowl. So we got these two 10s right here, two 10mm. I already loosened them, and they hold on the throttle cable assembly. Those two bolts, and then this comes off. So right next to that assembly we have a hose that connects to the right cylinder head and goes into the PCV valve. So the easiest way to do that is some angle pliers and just push it back like that. Okay, so this part is going to be impossible for me to show you. Well, I might try, but see, if you go back here and you push this down, this is the throttle. If you look down, see, it's hard to see. If you look back, see where those cables are? They attach to the throttle body. So what you need to do is you need to push down on this to take the tension off. You might not even need to do that because this is unbolted. But you basically need to remove those cables from this assembly. So again, I don't think I can show you that. So yeah, sorry about that. But that's kind of a tricky part. All right, guys, I got you in there. Now you can see. So actually this is pretty cool because now I can see way better. So you gotta push down on what I showed you last time. And you just gotta reach around. I might not even need to push down because they're not bolted in. So you just gotta reach. Yeah, I don't even need to push down. And just, it slides in from the side. You just have to unslide it. Pushing down actually helps me because it gets it closer. There's one. Let's see the other one. And I hope my hand isn't in the way. It probably is, but there's not much I can do with that. It's pretty cramped in here. Okay, there's the other one. And then you just, you know, let go. Oh, there's my phone. So that's it. Okay guys, so also behind there's this 10mm bolt, if you can see that right there, that you gotta, you don't have to take it out, you just need to loosen it because it goes in a slot. And actually I'm tightening it because I got it messed up. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you just need to loosen it, and that's just holding the intake in the back. So don't forget about that guy. Okay, now we're gonna unplug these two sensors on the throttle body. Here we go. Alright, so now we're gonna loosen these bolts holding the intake on. So now this guy should pop right off. And so there's a, right here, this guy right here has a vacuum line. So what you want to do is you want to lift this up and then just reach up there and disconnect that vacuum line. Okay, so now, oh, and there's a vacuum line back here too. That one's pretty obvious. Oh, forgot one thing. So if you look back behind here, and this is pretty hard to show you, you got these pipes going into the intake, and they're held on by clips. These are the EGR pipes. So all you gotta do is get in there with. I use my angle pliers, and the camera's in the way. Well, I'm going to do this off camera just because it was a pain getting the camera back there before. But you just pull these out straight. They just pull right out straight like that. So there's one on this side, and then there's one on the other side of the intake. So one thing I forgot to mention when I was filming this is that when you remove the intake from these pipes, there are seals that go around the pipe and seal off vacuum. And it's really easy to have these seals get stuck up in the intake and then fall off, and then when you go to put it back on, you have a pretty substantial vacuum leak. So be mindful of the seals on each one of these pipes on the intake. Alright, so now that those clips are off, this should just come right out. Oh, one more thing, vacuum line on the left in plain view. Totally forgot about it. Okay, now there we go. So if you follow this, the metal pipes from the fuel rail down here, this connects to a fuel line back there. So let me zoom you in a little closer here so you can see that. Alright, so camera angle's kind of weird, but there's the line right there. And we're gonna reach in there with our, I made a video on how to remove fuel lines, but here's just a recap. It's not that hard. Just gonna put that over the line and then move it on, and it gets pushed. Sorry, it's hard to set up the camera right here and work on this at the same time. So it's a good idea to relieve fuel pressure first, so let's do that. So on the fuel rail, there's a little cap here, and then attached to it is a Schrader valve. So what I do, so you can also just unplug the fuel pump relay and crank the engine over in the beginning, not right now. But what I like to do is take a screwdriver, oops, and we'll just wrap this in some paper towels to absorb all the gas. And then we're just gonna gently, sorry if you can't see that, but we're gonna see, there's a little tab in there. It's just like a tire valve. You just gotta push it in. So let's make sure there's no gunk on the screwdriver. We're just gonna, now this is already purged, so there we go. Alright, it's hard to set the camera here because I'm using my magnetic camera mount and everything's aluminum. So we're just gonna, you just push it into the line and then pull the line out. There you go. Just like that. And then I'm gonna take my tool off and hopefully not drop it. Hopefully not drop it. I'm on the verge of dropping it. Hopefully, and I dropped it. Alright, that's it. Okay, so now we need to unbolt the fuel rail. So the fuel rail is held on by 4 bolts. So but what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen all these lower intake bolts, and the reason for that is tightening the intake bolts, you have to do it in a sequence, okay, and you have to do it evenly in a sequence. It might be okay just to take these bolts out and put it back in, but you know, I don't want to risk anything. I don't want any leaks, because then you have to do all this work over again to get back to it. So I'm going to loosen all these up, and that way when we tighten them, we can tighten them in the proper sequence and proper torque. Okay, so let's just loosen them now. Now there might be some coolant coming out when it comes out of here. So again, I'm just threading them back in. That way when we tighten them, it just makes it easier. So, alright, let's take these out. These are the same size, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. And now, we're just gonna, you could just pull up, well, first you need to disconnect the fuel injectors. There's just a connector on each one. There we go. So you can just pull this out. Now careful, there's still gas in it, so just tilt it back and then just pour out the gas at a more convenient location.